Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. It's me, Azhar, and she's new to America Pro. And our podcast, it's her journey. And in this episode, we invited a guest, Dana Bukenova. She is a member of our community, and I would introduce Dana. And Dana, I will just let you to introduce yourself and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Azhar. And it's such a pleasure to join your podcast. And to be honest, this is the first time I'm doing any podcast in my life. Maybe I should, make a wish. But to everyone who's going to be watching this podcast, my name is Dana Bukenova. I am from Kazakhstan. I was born and raised in Almaty. And I came to the US about 10 years ago with a bit of a background, a good education back in Kazakhstan, but had no idea what the US journey is going to be like. And here I am 10 years later. I work as a senior product manager, product analytics manager. Product analytics manager, which is an equivalent of a data scientist in a big company. You probably heard about it. It's Bloomberg. And I've been in love with data analytics and data science for the past few years. So yeah, this is me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your introduction. And for our guests or our listeners and who watches us on YouTube, a little bit background how I met Dana. So I met Dana on Threads, and I know your first, at least for me, the first thread that got viral were about that you're the only one Kazakh a woman in Bloomberg, and you grew in the company and you're working as a senior manager in data analyst, and which is great. So we met from there, and now Dana is part of our community, and we're so proud to have you in our community. What I would like to cover, maybe before that thread post, if you can share like what you have done in Kazakhstan. What was your day to day in Kazakhstan before you came to the US?
That's a very interesting question. So my journey in Kazakhstan wasn't a linear journey, a straightforward journey. It was also, let me start from the very beginning. I graduated from Kazakh State University of World Languages, which is an equivalent of INYAZ, as we all know, kind of like an Institute of Foreign Languages. And when I graduated, I really wanted to teach English. Back at the time, I worked at the Defense Institute as an English instructor. And I was really into that kind of path. And I thought that I will be a military officer.
Wow.
Serve to my country. Yeah, it was kind of like back then. Then I worked for a few years and I got an offer from a bank. So I went to Halyk Bank of Kazakhstan and I worked there for another few years as an assistant to the deputy chairman. And it was a very eye-opening experience to me because I realized that there are so many opportunities outside of just, languages and international relations. And it got me into a business degree. So I went back to university and I did my second degree in finance because I thought that now I will do my career. All my career is going to be about finance and banking and all of that stuff. So I went to university, and right at the time when I graduated, it was a world crisis. It was kind of like a subprime mortgage crisis, financial crisis, and it was very difficult to get any jobs. So I eventually went and worked in telecommunications. And when I went in telecommunications industry, it was a different role. It was in marketing, believe it or not. So I kind of built my career in marketing and I did my own startup. It was very, reckless at the time. I was I was trying different things. I was exploring. I tried to make the best out of any kind of situation or any role. And right before I came to the US, I just closed my startup journey, meaning that we had a very successful company and we sold it to a strategic investor, which was a local telecom cable TV company. It was quite good. And we just closed the project. And I was like, well, what is the next chapter? Let me try and see what's out there, what's in the world, what should I do next? And in startup, it was like a completely different, environment. It's you kind of wear lots of hats. You're jack of all trades. It's very, I would say, fast paced. So when I came to the US, my first thought was I wanted to be an expert in something because for 5 or 6 years, running a business, it was very exciting. It was very rewarding. But at the same time, you felt like you're not an expert in anything. You don't have enough depth. You don't spend enough time learning something. You're being very, how would you say, you're being an entrepreneur. You're a hustler, basically. So when I came to the US, it was, first of all, it was about a new chapter. Then I was like, wait a minute, I can start from clean slate. Now that I'm here, what would I like to do for the next decade or 2 decades? And I thought, well, I wouldn't say forget everything about my previous experience, but I can definitely try something outside of my regular, like typical things that I would do, like outside of that previous role. So that's kind of
Interesting. Sorry. I didn't know that you had experience in finance and marketing. So it's interesting what made you switch from finance. So you mentioned that it was a financial crisis and you worked for telecom company in Kazakhstan. Is it KSL or something else?
No, it was Alem Communications.
Alem.
Alem Communications. It wasn't a mobile provider. It was mostly fiber optics. It was cable TV fiber optics provider. Residential areas, residential households. And it wasn't really an operator at the time. It was a company that consolidated smaller operators. It was kind of a holding company. Yeah. It had companies like Digital TV, Sekatel. I don't know whether you remember back then. It was late 2000s. No, there was small.
I may remember a couple of them, but yeah, a long time ago.
Well, Beeline and KSL, they were just the biggest players. It was really hard to, get into those companies. It was very competitive. And when I came to the US, I was just thinking about Gulshan, who told us, about her experience working at Beeline. Well, I came to the US, I didn't have a big name on my resume. Like I didn't have like a big four or the companies like Beeline. Yeah, it was like my own startup and Alem Holding, which very few people knew about, outside of Kazakhstan.
Yes, and by having your own startup back then, again, it's interesting that what made you start your own company, and if you can just share like what was the startup, like what was the product itself, and how big was your team. It's very interesting to learn because entrepreneurial, I think skills, you will have it. I mean, I think you need to born with entrepreneurial skills because it's hard to gain the skills. You need to have this hustle skills, that being able to manage all the things at the same time without being like niche expert. So we can talk about it. Please share.
Well, now that I look at it, I think of it of different. I have a different perspective. But back then, when I worked at Alem Communications, I met my husband at the time. He also worked at that company, and we saw an opportunity in the market. We saw kind of an underserved segment or underserved niche in the market, which was universities, which was like student segment. And at the time in Kazakhstan, there weren't a lot of, I would say, wireless, there were not a lot of wireless providers. Let's be honest. It was just the beginning of 3G, beginning of 4G. 4G, I believe it didn't even exist. It came like 4 years later. And the penetration was very low. Very few, public places or universities or businesses had Wi-Fi coverage or wireless internet services. So we immediately saw that gap and we decided to set our own company and start providing those services. And of course, it sounds very easy. In reality, it was very infrastructure heavy. It was very capital heavy. We had to find investors. We had to come up with our own business plan and the pitch and all of that. But luckily, we were at the right time, in the right place. So it worked out.
Wow.
And one of the reasons why I kind of did it is because I came back in between of these, jobs. I also went to study marketing at University of Manchester. I did my master's degree. And then when I came home, I was like, well, I need to find a job in marketing. And I started looking and going to different interviews. And I was a little bit discouraged at the time. It was a little bit discouraging environment.
Right. Especially after when you got your degree in abroad, you have this knowledge, and I don't know how fit this knowledge, like how you can adapt this knowledge to the different markets. Did they like focus on UK market? Like what was the difference?
So it was a great experience. Like I got a lot of interesting concepts and obviously a lot of knowledge from that master's degree. But when I came to Kazakhstan, let's face it, it was really tough to get an interview or get a role where you wouldn't have enough network. So I wouldn't say that I wasn't really, trying to target, director roles or manager roles. It was like just general specialists, right? And marketing departments, and not very few roles existed, and it was really tough to get that kind of placement, I would say. And the salaries are very low, so I was kind of like discouraged to, after about 6 months of search, I was discouraged to proceed in that. And I was like, well, maybe I should try my own business. And my husband was, developing this project, and I just jumped right in and I did my own thing.
That's very brave, I would say, and being young and being so ambitious, like having this expertise. And speaking of about United States and today, like what's going on in today's day-to-day life, I know you in the US 10 years, right? In this 10 years, what happened? What brought you to the US, and how do you like here?
So it's 9 full years. It's going to be 10 years at the end of the 2026. I'll tell you, time flew. Yeah, what brought me to the US is my husband, who is American. And once we closed our previous company, meaning that we sold it, and then we were like, well, we exited, what should we do next? And I just said, let's try, let's go back to your hometown. And his hometown happened to be Arlington, which is near Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
He was born and raised around Washington, D.C. area. So we came here, and I started all over. And what can I say? It was a bumpy journey, I would say. It wasn't an easy adaptation. I'm sure a lot of people go through this process. It's for some people, it's a little bit smoother. For some people, it's a little bit bumpier. But I think we grow a lot. We actually go long ways outside of our, I wouldn't say capabilities, but we constantly test our capabilities and our identity. I was thinking about it because actually when you immigrate somewhere, you have to change a lot in your brain, and you have to change your perception of who you are when you are in a foreign environment. I would say like nowadays it's more comfortable, but back then 10 years ago it was like a very strange environment. Like yes, I would say it's very different from my expectations, or very different from what I've seen in the movies. We all watch Hollywood movies, and then we came and lived. At first, we didn't live around the current area. We lived in Maryland, Annapolis, and that is a completely different, culture.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you came to the US 10 years ago, you started from scratch. You, as you shared, that you need to re-identify your identity. So just to redefine your identity. And looking back to Dana, who came to the US with her first expectations, and being Dana, who went through these challenges, went through these changes and everything, what would you recommend to yourself? What would you advise to yourself, like as a short reminder or maybe a short encouragement? What would you tell to yourself 10 years ago when you were just started, maybe when you faced the first challenge?
Well, I would say that everything will work out. Everything is it's like a puzzle. Everything is going to fall into a full picture. You just have to be patient a little bit. It's not going to come right away. Just be patient. But I think I knew a lot of these things at the time. I had a different expectation, but I didn't have high expectations. I knew that I was coming from basically a nowhere, and I don't have any friends, I don't have any relatives, and people don't know me. So I didn't expect that I didn't expect to have such a great career. I was like, well, I'm willing to accept anything. I was like kind of very humble at the time. the older or the longer I stayed in the US, the more I was able to open up, and I was able to actually think better, think higher of my intellectual capabilities or my talents and all of that. But I would say, well, I would tell myself that it's just a process. You have to go through this. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to work out. At the end, you're going to get reward. You're going to find your place. Everything is going to be great. Just
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, being patient, I think it's the big thing. And especially when you don't know that it's going to work out, but have this belief and faith that it's going to, by the end of the day, all the dots will be connected and you will see the results of all hard work that you are facing. But in that moment, maybe it was difficult to realize that it's coming sometime.
Yeah. And another advice that I would give to myself actually is to pay attention to your health and pay attention to yourself first. It means eating well, sleeping well, exercising. It's just mental health. And because a lot of the times you don't feel, you don't have support system here, right? So you don't feel that you are part of some kind of family circle or friend circle that you can fall back on. So you have to really be disciplined, pay attention to your, state of mind, and just, keep investing in yourself, keep investing in your skills and knowledge. So
Yeah, that's
feels,
a
it feels
good.
a little bit isolated at times, and a lot of people go through this, but at the end of the day, it will make us better. It will make you better, stronger.
Yeah. So now you're working in a big company. If you can just a little bit touch how this happened, how you got this opportunity, how hard how hard was to get this job, and how long have you been working for Bloomberg?
Okay, so I started in 2022 in June. It's been 4 years, just last week. I would say that it was hard in the sense that it wasn't like a pre-known fact. I was referred by a former colleague. He wasn't even a colleague. He was someone I knew from a certain project that happened between my company at the time and his company. So it was simply a referral, but I didn't know that I was going to get a job. So I was waiting for 5 months to go through this, process of vetting. I don't know what, there's probably like some kind of process that HR takes because it took a lot of time. I would say that it was hard, but it wasn't too intimidating. At some point, I was just, because what saved me is that I was in a job search process, and I was going through interviews, and it helped me get in a good shape. So I was going to different interviews. In some places I was getting rejection. Some places they were like, wait, we will get back to you in a month or so. But I was like, I wasn't even thinking that I will get that job offer. I just like kind of applied and forgot. And then when they got back to me 4 months later and the interview process started, I wasn't even hoping. I was like, I'm going to just go through the process, but I'm going to keep my expectations very low. I don't expect to get a job. I just want to see what it's like. And it worked out. So what got me there, I think one of the things that I keep reminding myself, and I agreed, and everyone talks about it. Jane talked about it. You talked about it. A lot of people talk about it, is that relationships get you there. Your style, your kind of good attitude, your how you approach things, how you talk to people, how you communicate, those kinds of things, they make a good impression. Of course, not to say that you shouldn't be an expert, not to say that you shouldn't have all this, technical skills, soft skills, hard skills, whatever it takes. But in addition to that is being able to build those relationships, being able to, have those connections. So I think it helped.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
helped because again, you never expect what kinds of things come out of your, certain, friendships and interactions. You never know.
absolutely. 100%. 100%. I think even right now, it's like AI is getting so being
Ubiquitous.
in part of our life, like AI, but people more and more relying on other humans. So they trust human more because we need human to make bigger decisions. And when human choose to work with other human, they will based on the human relationships. So it's very important, and I think it's going to be more important moving forward as well.
Exactly, exactly. It's
Mhm.
kind of your approaches, your judgment, your critical thinking, the way your thought process, the way you communicate, your credibility, that everything kind of falls into this image that creates
Uh-huh.
trust and credibility. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's great. So now, if we start talking about future, like what you're dreaming about, what's your next step, what's your next goal in your career, maybe in your journey in the US, what you're working towards?
Well, that's a very complicated question that I ask myself every day. Of course, first of all, I want to share what I've learned so far, what I've done. I'm trying to be very open with everything that I have, like all my intangible assets, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
And in that regard, I'm trying to help as many people as I can. That's one of the reasons why I started, being more active on social media, like in Threads and Instagram. I'm trying to show certain people or help certain people. It doesn't appear in my pages a lot of the time, but it happens a lot in DMs when people reach out and I'm like, yes, I'll help you. And I talk to you. I give certain mentorship classes, or like I mentor people, and those kind of, I see myself doing more of that kind of engagement. But of course, there's a lot more to do in terms of the professional career here. I would love to grow in my career further. There's a lot of room for growth. There's always like new things that come every day. And so I see myself doing both professionally, doing something for community, doing something for other generation, like the next wave of analysts or wave of professionals, and maybe even my own business. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I
you
don't
already had this in Jane.
Yes, yes. And to be honest, I was a little bit burnt out from my startup, like from my business. Now I read that with AI raising the bar, you can't even call the companies cannot call themselves startups if it's less than 1 billion in revenue or something like that. I just saw it somewhere.
Yeah, right now it's like, oh, you're not in billion.
Maybe it was just a business, who knows? But it was scalable. That was a scalable business. We had I would believe 80,000 customers at the time when we sold it. So, but yeah, maybe my own business. I don't know. Maybe
Uh-huh.
I recovered from that burnout.
Yeah, yeah. And I think since you have this desire to help the next generation, to help other people who are seeking this new next step, that's a great, great desire. And I'm so happy to have you today. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I wish you that your dreams and hopes will come true in the next next chapter.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jean.
Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. And we would definitely want to continue our conversation and learn more about you. And we need to continue this, and we may dive into your mentorship opportunities, and maybe we can open up like how you can help to a community, what we can do together. And we would love to have you again in our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Azhar.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to us. Bye bye.
Bye bye.